Well,
You'd be glad you had it.
as far as qubits of space in time, out of the cables that you'll find absolutely useless, will saving the qubits of space for the cable box prove that one or two of those cables are worthwhile of keeping the whole junk pile around? Well, that's debatable until you discern that yes, I have a reason for this.
When you turn 60, Brock, you have a whole room that's like that. Just full
Can't
of
wait.
stuff like that.
To be honest, I'm being modest about the qubits of box.
I have a garage full of, 30-year-old or whatever, 30-year-old computers, Unix computers. Not full, but I have a full garage. Some of the stuff in it is old SGIs
Computer
and
parts.
stuff.
You got some
Half of them
solid-
still work, I think.
some floppy disk readers and the data upon which they are. Yeah, I've got a few floppy disks. I'm still kind of like, oh wait, why do I still have this? It's like, because somehow this is a treasure.
Are they real floppies or are they hard floppies?
I did have some. Those I finally got rid of, but I actually have 3 1/4 floppies for programs that my dad and I used to run on our Mac Plus, where you had to have a system disk and the program disk in order to run a basic game or a computer program.
Yeah.
I still got a bunch of those. My dad and I both. Wait, you just changed your shirt. You know what? That's a magic trick. We didn't even see you naked. You just
I was
somehow
going to say,
reshirted.
RJ changed his shirt too, I think, right, RJ?
Yeah, whatever there got us my shirt's a little chilly in here.
I agree, Steve.
Fair enough.
Okay, please don't jump on all my stuff.
So I used to teach a class at the U in the early 80s. Where you turned your homework in on 8-inch floppy drive disks.
Yeah.
You went
Technically,
to the,
floppy
you went
as
to the
in
bookstore. You went
Floppy.
went to the bookstore and bought one. Everybody had to buy one. It was part of the lab of the lab. And so you'd see me walking down the hall with 40 of these 8-inch floppy disks in my arms, and they took forever to read. So you'd stick one, to grade people, stick one in and wait. Yeah, they did it wrong. Right in the grade book.
I had a best friend in high school. It was the only other friend that I had that was interested in not just playing video games, but had an interest in designing or developing or someday getting into the world of making video games. Well, he moved like 20 miles away, and when you're 14 years old, you don't have a car, 20 miles away might as well be across the planet back in the early 90s. So we would exchange data that we were working on using just like the standard 3.5-inch floppy or 3 1/4, whatever you call it. And we would like put that in an actual envelope along with a letter and be like, hey, this is what I've been going through lately and some ideas I have, and I sent you some data, and we would exchange through the actual postal mail diskettes. And that was how we actually
just freaked out.
Yeah, so I literally adore that was a part of my experience, being where I am at now and being like,
sure.
Well, you could either do that through email or a cloud service, or you could send a USB drive that has like several gigs of data on it if you really had to go physical.
Yeah.
I remember
My
up,
headset
at
just
some
freaked
point I
out.
was
I'm
like,
going to disappear for a second.
What's that, Scott? The other Scott?
I said my head.
When I, too many seconds.
I'm disappearing.
When I
Bye,
was
guys.
growing up, at some point, I one of the AOL online discs that came, I pounced on. I said, "This one's mine." I started using that as the disc that I put all my stuff on. So it's just my disc, and then I realized it was a terrible idea because floppy disks are not very reliable. But I had my own disc for a while, and it was great.
Cool kids only.
That sounds really nice.
It is great.
A way to get up
It
on
still
the
is great.
rafters.
Honestly, I just got a flag to my website that I put up in 2014 that I have not worked on since. And I'm like, oh boy, I should probably update that. And I literally haven't done anything to update my website in a long time, and it made me sad 3 years ago. I still haven't done anything about it, and that's
mine
just
froze
ultra
a
sad.
that
Oh boy.
the wiki type thing that I had installed on there no longer runs, and it's been that way for a couple of years. Oops.
I'm pretty sure it's good news that Flash is dying. We're supposed to not use it anymore or something, and updating it is useless or something. Or I don't know. I don't know what the new input is on that, but apparently Flash has been reported like 6 years ago as like, oh, it's out the window. No one uses it anymore. But now we're finally getting all the messages that say, yeah, it really isn't. It isn't a thing. You need to fix it.
Sort of like stopped updating it, and they're gonna completely stop updating it to like at the end of the year or something like that. So
I
most web
love
browsers
and
don't ship
hate.
with a Flash anymore.
What's Newgrounds gonna do?
exactly.
Yeah,
I both love and hate the
mean,
fact that I
there's a
got
bunch of, like-
into. I was just going to say, as far as Flash is concerned, it taught me how to use Illustrator preemptively when I was intimidated by Illustrator. I spent a lot of my time learning how to make drawings using vector curves. Hey, Ian. Using vector curves in Flash, knowing ultimately that I'd have to learn Illustrator if I wanted to do that kind of graphic to make logos or whatever, and look crisp based on how you scale them, SVG style. I learned that all with Flash because I was intimidated by Illustrator at the time that I learned Flash. And then Flash continuously became a dinosaur and fossilized over time. And while I was in college, I was like, hey, why didn't I ever learn Illustrator? Was it because I was like slightly intimidated? Let me just go ahead and learn it and just get that over with. And then I did. I was like, let me just learn it. Oh, wait, I learned it. Oh, it's not that intimidating. Especially since I already learned Flash. But now I'm Flash, just right the hell away. No worries about that.
Yeah,
And now
Illustrators,
Yeah, no, that's,
when it first came out, was just, I had these artists who were just starting to learn 3D stuff, and
Poor Flash.
Illustrator was just so weird. Just the interface of it, how you use it is.
It is.
I just tacked
not
my
at all
way onto the
intuitive.
building and then fell to my
Yeah.
Same with Blender. I was in college learning how to use
It
Maya,
doesn't sound
and then
pleasant.
I kept on looking at Blender, and it was like, yeah,
Good to see you guys
well,
again.
my instructors kept on telling me, oh, if you learn a tool, like if you learn a 3D tool, whether it's,
I didn't know you could
Maya
do
or Moto or
characters.
3ds
Oh,
Max
look,
or whatever
we
you
learned
get,
them all,
it's like
except for
it's like learning how to use a hammer. You'll figure out how to hold the hammer slightly differently, but it still does the same job of hammering a nail. It's like, yeah, I
Right.
get that, until you pick up Blender, and it's like whoever designed Blender is like, yeah, well, we hold the hammer differently. We like hold the hammer like, all like weird or something, and that's how we do it. And that,
Trying to get up.
when I was in college focusing on my studies, I was like, well, yeah, my instructors told me that this is free and I should learn it, but fuck, this is so different than Maya. This is so annoying. I'm annoyed by how different it is, and I didn't learn it. And I didn't learn it, and I
Brock,
didn't
can
learn it, and I
interrupt
didn't
this
learn
for a
it.
second?
Yeah.
What do I look like right now to you?
there's
bean
Steve
hole
Johnson
with a
going.
sweater.
But
I
just
mean,
sort of like I've
Steve
looked
Jobs,
like
maybe.
the whole time. My
Yeah, you
headset's
look-
just kind of freaking out. I wonder if maybe my batteries are running out of my controllers or something.
Oh,
You're
that could
standing
be.
on the first step of this particular auditorium.
Yeah. Where do my hands?
Now you're
look like
not.
they are? Oh, I-
Well, now
Like at
it
shoulder
looks like
level,
you're standing at the
waist
height level of the first step, but you're not on the step.
what are my hands doing?
They look like hands
they're like
doing what
shoulder
they,
level
they
waving
should.
around.
You're landing a
Oh,
plane right now.
oh, weird. It's
Wait
I'm
a
gonna
minute.
Disappear again and reset.
Hey, wave
my,
your left hand controller. Okay, it is your left hand. Okay, just making sure.
I'm just messing with
Yeah,
you.
no, that's a good thing to try. Whether I switch it or not. But,
Cool kids
my
only.
headset's acting funny. I can't like maneuver or anything.
How are you?
Don't jump
Yeah.
I'm going away. I'll be back.
Good. I'm probably amplified right now. Let me turn that off.
Oh, that's
Ooh, now
good.
we
Well,
can
anyway,
talk
the
about it,
point
'cause
being,
that's
I'm-
got-
Yeah, I had an idea
Oh,
kind of for.
I
exactly.
think I'm losing
I
it.
see your name a lot of places on different
Oh,
social
Oh, yeah.
VRs. would you ever want
Anyway,
to talk
point being,
about
I'm glad I
kind of the
learned
different things that are out
Illustrator.
there and
I
what
spent the time.
what's good
it took
or
me about a week and a half to
not good about each
fully
one a little
through
bit?
my ignorance of how to use Illustrator to do scalable vector graphics.
Sure.
And ever since, I've been like, why didn't I do that years ago?
I think everybody has a story like
Yeah,
that with,
yeah, 'cause
some sort of
you know,
Adobe product.
There's just
for-
so many
for
as
someone
well.
who's After
I guess
Effects,
maybe
it's
one
like,
way is just to talk
"What?
about their
This
last
is
big
crazy."
event, or
And I'm
like
oh yeah, I love
that
it.
one for the Vive
Yeah,
Um,
importable layers
thing
from
had
other
a
Adobe
had a
products
Quest
too.
version that
Wow.
they don't show anywhere, and it
Powerful.
was really rough.
Right.
And also, I heard from a couple people last week that said that the
What
audio
software
was
have you
kind
been
of a
taking
problem
around with
too.
Scott?
That a lot of noise was coming in.
That's a good question. So I've just been doing a lot of programming.
Yeah.
About, like,
In what
stupid
language?
things that someone else could have done for me. C
Mhm.
mostly.
Okay. I literally in the last week have been picking up Unreal as in, wow, I tried to install it and I'm having trouble with it working properly. So in the last week I've wanted to get into Unreal and haven't.
Yeah.
You know what you should do with Unreal? Uninstall. Just kidding. I
Oh,
know.
good to know.
Yeah. I think that I actually do have to uninstall. I think I have to install a previous version of Unreal because I keep getting a bunch of error messages with whatever's available on there.
Well, yeah, I should
generic, like,
kick off
are
this
you
thing
new to
here.
Unreal? It's like, well, no, I
Let me
installed
see
you
if
years
I
ago, but
can-
never used you.
I don't have a clock in
but
here,
sure,
but I know it's fine.
install the
I'm
newest
gonna
one.
find RJ.
Install the newest one, and I've got nothing but problems.
Oh, yeah,
So I'm
perfect.
thinking
I'll get up
I
to this.
probably have to install a previous version of Unreal to tinker with it. I'm of course still running on Windows 7. I honestly, I think I'm in the right wheelhouse of people to talk to about game development and whether or not everyone's jumping on Windows 10 because it's been enough time. A lot of programs
Nope,
are kind
talking
of
to the wrong
updated
person.
to Windows 10, but I don't know.
This guy's an expert on that subject. And
Are you
scene.
using
You're talking to
Ubuntu or
exactly the
People
wrong
on the
person.
ceiling. Yeah, they should count them too.
Windows 10 can go rotten. I don't know.
How did it get up
somewhere.
there?
I don't
Hey
know.
guys, I think
That's mostly
we're gonna give it like
Well,
5 more minutes.
I
I know
don't think
people are
I
having a little
have
trouble
long
getting into Altspace because we've got that strict
time.
group membership based on your Altspace email, which is maybe not your favoritist email. So Patrick's working right now to add people. If you're in this situation, email mnvr@igdapc.org and be sure you're giving the email that matches your Altspace account. Right, Patrick?
Might need to mute this guy.
Yeah, we got a few people who came in, but not a whole lot.
I'll mute him. How's that? Better?
Right. He was echoing our conversation.
Yeah, so that's a great point. If you're attending in PC 2D mode, you'll want to use headphones or something because it's pretty easy for other people's conversation to echo out your microphone, and you won't necessarily hear that, and other people will. So,
Okay. Well, before it starts, I want to thank you for.
people are messaging me now.
Vive and the controller.
Okay, let's try that.
Oh, yeah.
Binding and
Sorry that
testing.
took so long.
Oh no, that's okay. That's great.
So Patrick and I did a bunch of testing
It is basically hard
earlier this week, and we're going to build up kind of a permanent email list
on the web days.
rather than pulling and starting over from each Eventbrite.
Thanks.
There's a few little gotchas like that that aren't well documented in Altspace, but we're kind of learning as we go. And we're not the only ones. I'll talk about mixed reality dev days from Microsoft last week, and they had some gotchas on presenting too. Hey, Carlos, what's up? Oh, wow, cool. Yeah. Okay. Cool. Yeah, I'll email him. Or actually, he might answer his phone now if he's on the road. Okay. I can do that. Yeah. Yeah, that's what I kind of heard too. But yeah, at least have a good talk with them or something. Yeah, Ryan, go ahead. Okay. Okay. All right, sounds good. One other Altspace trick for people that maybe haven't figured it out yet is you click in your left stick on Quest anyway. There's probably something else on the keyboard, and that recenters you and fixes your height. So if you change in real life from sitting down, if you're standing and you change to sitting down, your feet will be through the floor, and maybe you can't see well. Just click that stick again, and you go back to exactly average human height. Conversely, if you stand up and then sit down, you can be like a land shark that hides in the floor. That's about all the lower I can get. But if you really work on it, climb on like some furniture, click the stick, and then lay on the ground. You should be able to get under the stage. Good times.
I got another
Same
trick.
with yeah.
I got a trick. If you get a message, you want to lean forward off of your chair before you try to reply to it. Otherwise, you're just sort of stabbing at your own crotch trying to hit that keyboard, and you can't move it once you start replying to it. So you scoot up on the seat and then reply. That's how you do that.
Quality right there.
Good cover story.
Oh man, I should have brought a keyboard for this quest.
You should have an alt email account on your Altspace. Would be good.
Yeah.
Dangerous to go alone. Take this keyboard.
So, Patrick, did you see my second account email from my Yahoo?
Yeah, you're in.
Cool.
Yeah,
Matt Summers is having trouble too.
All right. Well, I don't have his email address.
You don't?
No. Oh yeah.
Okay.
Well, I mean, if that's him, Smooth Blower.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's it.
I'll just add him to the thing.
And where's RJ at? Where'd you go? Is that him on the floor?
Right here. Right here.
Oh, pink. Beautiful. You changed clothes.
Thank you.
He did.
It was
He
a little
did.
chilly in here.
There. That was a little short. Okay, I think we're ready to kick it off. We'll keep bringing people in. Patrick has kindly volunteered to man the IGDA TC account and is over here on the left side of your view, completely nude with pink hair and representing IGDA TC. And for anybody that's not in Altspace yet, but is hopefully watching the Twitch stream or something, you can email this new email alias we made just for this painful procedure. Send your Altspace email to mnvr@igdatc.org. And we'll get it started. So thanks for coming. We got actually two different presentations tonight. And then afterwards, we also were kind of working on the social angle as well. We're going to do a tour of a couple custom spaces that we sussed out that have pretty good performance and work well on I don't know about Go, but on the Quest. Is anybody here using the Go? You'll be the guinea pig if you are.
Raise your left
Okay.
hand.
So then RJ is up first. If you want to get up here and pull up your slides. I'm going to attempt to stay in Quest the whole time with the laptop as backup. See how that goes. I want to make sure you are. And we're going to leave the microphones hot, everybody. So just kind of be aware of your surroundings. And if someone else is making noise, just wave at them and get their attention. Ask them to
RJ
mute.
rules. Woo!
And our format is like before. We're in this giant theater, but we still want you to interrupt and ask questions at any point. And if we're having trouble hearing you for some reason, just wave your hands violently.
What do the questions have to be about?
It should be somewhat relative to the presentation.
Sorry, that was the first thing I could think
I went to a public event last week. I'll tell you all about it. Oh, blocking the podium. Take it away, RJ.
What are you using, first of all? Curious.
Okay. All right. Can you all hear me?
Yeah.
Probably.
Sweet. Okay, great.
Yep, we can hear
My name is RJ White. I am a VR developer here in the Twin Cities area. I currently work at Ghost Productions, but I also like to make games on the side. And I do a lot of kind of action-oriented games, but I have messed around with a lot of different interaction systems in Unity. And so I just want to kind of go over some of the various ones that are available that are kind of still used these days. So some of you might be familiar with some of these. Some of you might not even do development in Unity, so this could be completely useless for you, but you might learn something. So I'm just going to drop the laser pointer and forget about that. So I'm just going to jump right in. All right. So the main one I'm going to be talking about tonight is kind of a newer one, actually. It's called VR Interaction Framework, often shortened to VRIF. But I'm just going to go through some of the other ones, too. Like I said, these are all for Unity apps. I don't think any of them really apply to Unreal or any other engine, so I am sorry for anyone who I will bore with this talk, but, you know, maybe to learn something. All right, here we go. So I'm just going to kind of show off a quick clip from a current side project I'm working on. It is kind of a zombie scavenging VR shooter that is being optimized and running on the Oculus Quest headset. All right. So it's kind of showing, picking up objects that have some weight to them, kind of showing that the player has holsters. You can see kind of grabbable objects have like a ring around them indicating them that sort of come into view.
I'm actually in VR.
You can see once an object's like selectable, it kind of changes color. There's two-handed interactions going on there too. And as the grabbable objects get a certain distance away, you see kind of those grab rings fade, indicating that they are not currently grabbable. So moving on. There we go. All right. So a few of the options that are available for Unity developers these days for interaction systems, just kind of working out of the box where you don't have to start off with some of the most basic things in VR, like grabbing objects. Our VRTK is arguably one of the most popular of all time currently for virtual reality development. There are kind of two different versions of it, though, that in the development community are getting used, so I'll kind of go over those differences in a bit. XR Toolkit is actually the native one that Unity's working on and kind of currently developing for their newest versions, so like 2019.3 and their 2020.1 alpha. So for anybody who's really interested in staying on the cutting edge, Unity has their own thing that they are actively putting work into. Steam VR has their own interaction stuff. I'll talk about that really briefly, as well as Oculus and their SDK. And then the last slide, we'll kind of go over some of the important things I feel like people need to know about the VR interaction framework, because it is a newer one, like I said, and I don't think as many people know about that one yet. And then just kind of briefly put there at the bottom, MRTK, that's Microsoft, they have for their Windows headsets and for HoloLens. And there is like a really popular fork where someone actually made some of it work for Quest with the hand tracking that's really cool. So anyone who's interested in Oculus Quest hand tracking for interaction systems specifically for that, actually really highly recommend the MRTK Quest fork. It's really cool. Vive has the Wave SDK, I think is the most, they're still calling it that. It's really specific for their headsets. I think it works on their PC ones, but it's what their mobile headsets use. And then Pico kind of has their own. They also used to have compatibility with Wave SDK as far as I knew, but I don't have their newest one, the Neo 2. Has anybody had a chance to play with that yet? No? Okay, that's fine. Moving on. Let me figure. All right, VRTK. So I'm going to just kind of jump into version 4, which is considered the newest one on GitHub, is where it's available. It's heavily game object oriented. So a lot of the architecture for it is actually based in the hierarchy in in the project scene for Unity. And personally, I don't actually like that a lot because it, as it says at the here bottom, it kind of almost functions as its own design language. Like you have to kind of learn how to do things specifically the way the VRTK developers wanted you to make things. And you see these example videos they post all the time about how they made these really cool features with one line of code, but they kind of don't mention probably the 30 minutes of mucking about with game objects and messing with sliders on components to get things exactly how they want them. And that's not a bad thing. It's just, it is kind of its own design language. So if you're learning VRTK version 4, you're kind of going into it that's in a unique way that's kind of different from a lot of the other interaction systems. And if you ever try to transfer systems, that knowledge isn't going to be as useful going to other places. It's still being updated too, still being worked on a lot. It's not as robust as the old version was, 3.3. And it's got a lot of documentation missing too in that area. I don't know a lot of people who are actually trying to use it in a professional capacity or even on their games. I know a lot of people who've dabbled in it or tried to pick it up just because they were such a fan of version 3, but I just don't see it just picking up steam as well, especially with some of the other options that are kind of coming out of focus or coming into focus. 3.3 was really robust, but you'll notice it's on the Unity store, it's actually really dated. It's not being updated anymore, obviously, which is kind of unfortunate because it had a lot of cool options into it with it, a lot of different ways to grab items, different like physics-based ways. Some of them were kinematic. It had a really cool snap drop zone system, which they do still replicate in version 4, but again, just not as robust yet. And it got used by tons of developers, used professionally in a lot of places. Even at Ghost, we use a version of 3.3 that we extended. But I mean, one of the big things you'll notice if you start trying to use it for Quest development, for example, is that it doesn't work out of the box for Quest. You need to kind of change it up a little bit, change some of the settings, which is sort of unfortunate because honestly, 3.3 version of VRTK is, even with all the other options, is still one of the most robust of those options. So it's kind of unfortunate they went the direction they did with version 4, in my opinion. Some people might try it and love it. But yeah, for anybody who needs something really robust and needs to prototype it, and it's cross-platform, works for a lot of stuff, and they're interested in VRTK and the amount of documentation it has behind it, 3.3 is actually the direction I would go. And then I'm actually going to show really quick here a clip of that zombie demo I showed you guys, where I actually started off the project using VRTK 3.3 because it's the one I had the most familiarity with and liked the most. And this is running on Quest, so it does run on Quest okay. It didn't have as many features as I wanted it to. And once I found out about VRIF, I got a lot more interested in that.
I don't think it was really much of a threat. That's cool.
I get the VR and the K is kinematic. What's the T again?
Sorry, what was that?
Oh, VRTK. I get VR and I get kinematics. But what's the T stand for in this one?
Oh, the K is actually kit, so it's VR Toolkit, VRTK. All right, so I'm going to move on from there. These other ones I'm going to kind of go through a bit more quickly just because they weren't used for this. The XR Toolkit, like I said, it's more modern and it's native to Unity. So, you know, a lot of people feel more comfortable using it because they know it's made by the same engine that they're using. If you go to the forum, it is being updated pretty well. It's very thinly featured right now. It does have kind of its own snap drop zones that they call sockets. And that's honestly one of the most important and overlooked systems, I think, for interactions are snap zones, as they're called in VRTK and others. So the fact that they have those sockets, I think, is great, but they just aren't as robust as the VRTK ones quite yet. And at least for me personally, when I tried to mess with the example scene and start customizing some stuff, the setup for the input for custom input was just a little different than I was used to with the other interaction systems. Some people may like it a bit more. I honestly haven't messed with it a ton. It's just it's kind of thin. And being lightweight is not a bad thing, but just as far as looking for out-of-the-box solutions that have a ton of options and are really robust, the XR toolkit is not quite there yet. But if you want to start building your own system off of something, then the XR toolkit is probably a great place to start. And moving on from there. All right, SteamVR, I will admit right now, this is one I have not used a lot, specifically because of the reasons at the bottom here. It is not compatible with mobile, so you can't use it on the Oculus Go or Quest, and it is not allowed on the Oculus Store. And by that I mean the SDK is not even allowed, like being in the project. So if you try to submit a game to the Oculus Store and you have the SteamVR SDK in there, then Oculus will literally reject it for that reason. And they have their technical reasons for it. It's not like they're doing it just to be dicks, although maybe a little bit, but it just doesn't make sense for them. And for me personally, working on a lot of Oculus headsets and trying to aim for the Oculus Store, it's a reason why I avoid SteamVR. But from what I understand and have studied of it, it does have a really good system for doing hand poses. So you'll know a lot of games where you grab objects. Not all of them have your hands kind of disappear like Job Simulator does. Some of them actually have your hands kind of grasping onto the object in realistic ways. And this has a great system for detailing those hand positions. And then it does a really good job with handling different bindings. I mean, that's kind of the whole point of Steam for a lot of people. And it does have some interactions. It has like object highlighting. It has teleportation down really well, in my opinion. But for me, personally, those things at the bottom are deal breakers. But for anyone who's just focused on PC VR and just cares about the Steam VR store, Steam VR might be a great option for you because it is pretty robust. And then next one. Hey, Oculus, again, going over this one just really quick because they do have some features in their SDK for getting off the ground like really quickly. They've got their own player controller that you can use. It's not great, honestly. It works cross-platform, so you could use it for open VR games. As I understand it, I haven't actually tried to use it in that sense. They just advertise that it does. And then obviously it works on mobile, which is hugely important. But this is the thinnest interaction system of them all, I would argue. It barely has, being able to grab stuff and throw it and move around. And they kind of build it expecting you to either extend off of it to a very large degree or just to use another system. I don't think they really expect a lot of people to try to use just their stuff for your interactions. And from there, we kind of move on to the main event. As you can see, it kind of typed up a lot more for this. So the VR interaction framework, if you kind of go in the Unity Asset Store often these days, you'll actually see it kind of pop up on the front page, or you're recommended if you do a lot of VR development. So seeing it there is where I first got introduced to it. And probably the biggest thing that stands out to you when you first see it is probably the price tag, honestly, because it's one of the only, it is the only of these options that's not free, as it says at the bottom there. Like, that's a big deal for a lot of people. They don't want to drop money on, a framework for virtual reality specifically because, VR development is still a little niche. And especially from a toolkit like this that's kind of unheard of, like it doesn't have a lot of popularity yet, that can make some people nervous because they haven't seen a lot of games made with it. Whereas VRTK, there's a lot of games on the store you can buy with real money that have been made using it. So it's got a bit more of a pedigree compared to it. But despite it being so new, it actually is jam-packed full of features that I love, which is kind of the reason I switched over to it for my current zombie kind of scavenging project. It's cross-platform. It's kind of built off of the Oculus SDK in very small ways at the moment. And the developer has said in his Discord server, where he offers a lot of almost instantaneous support for people, that he is working on the next version, getting it completely decoupled from the Oculus SDK. If you actually dig into it and see what they're using things that are really easy to decouple yourself, actually. He doesn't really dig into the OVR input so much, whereas he has his own input bridge that he has on there. So it actually makes it really easy to just use XR input instead. And the only things he's using from the SDK are a couple prefabs like the player controller and some of the custom hand stuff for the Oculus Quest hand tracking. So it is really easy to decouple it yourself and be able to use it on any headset really, and even stuff like the VIA Focus, like the kind of more niche Chinese headsets, you could theoretically build your own input bridge with it and just start using the kit out of the box and not have to worry about building a lot of these interactions yourself. It has some of the stuff I showed in that video, grabbing. It has grab rings, which work really well for mobile devices, whereas sometimes outline shaders break on like the Oculus Quest and the Go. I don't know how many of you out there have done a lot of Quest development, but sometimes outline shaders for objects either just don't work at all in Quest or look really ugly or ruin performance. So I think grab rings like this kit uses are actually really good because of that. It has its own snap zones similar to VRTK. Again, it uses those rings, which I think is pretty intuitive because, again, avoids a lot of the issues that highlight and outline shaders can cause. And it lets you do like by policy. So, only objects with this name are allowed to snap into that snap zone. Only a certain amount of objects are allowed to snap into these areas. It just has a lot of the robustness I love about VRTK 3.3, but it's not dated. It's still being made. It's still being worked on. It works for the Oculus Quest out of the box. It takes very little work to make it work with any headset, really, which is a big deal to me. And it works with the new stuff. So the new input systems that are getting harder and harder to just immediately adapt to, it already works with them. So if you want to use something like Unity, like Unity's newest versions, so you can mess with their newest features, you can. You can go to 2019.3 and above, and you still use this kit. Oh, you got a question out there? Yep.
How much does it cost?
It is $60, so it's definitely not like just a drop in the bucket impulse buy for a lot of people, and it really wasn't for me either. But it goes on sale very often as well, and usually when it goes on sale, it's for a full 50% off. It's at like $30. And honestly, I think I'm almost more comfortable with it being paid compared to some of the free options because it means they're getting an income off of it, and it means the developer is way more inclined to actually keep it up to date. Because if it was a $60 asset on the store that he stopped supporting, then obviously it would only take a couple versions for the reviews to completely tank and for the app to really get bad reviews. But if you look at it right now, I think it's at like 39 reviews with a full 5 stars. So it is highly rated by other developers on the store. So I do recommend checking out the store page after this if you want. I'm not trying to make this a whole advertisement about this toolkit. I just want to make people aware of it because it is extremely robust. And I honestly think it is a kind of modern day replacement for what VRTK 3.3 was for a lot of developers out there. The custom hand post system it has isn't quite as good as Steam's built-in stuff, but the fact that it actually has one compared to pretty much none of the other options do, besides the Oculus one, kind of, and just having a lot of stuff that people would take for granted, like having built-in haptics when you're holding an object and colliding against other things, having sounds for those objects too. Those things are just really nice little details that kind of make it worth that $60, in my opinion. Oh, got a question out there?
As far as hand pose systems, what does Oculus support in what they're doing right now?
Right now in the Oculus SDK, if you kind of go over their guides, they have like a brief thing in there for placing finger joints. I think they have an example scene for that. It's not super intuitive. And this system is similar to that, but easier to customize, in my opinion. And one of the nicest things is it does use like the kind of same CapSense touch sensitivity that like a lot of native Oculus apps do. So like when you put your fingers on, your fingers kind of curl naturally. When you put your thumb like on the thumbstick or on the buttons, your thumb moves. It has all those features built into it without being completely married to Oculus. So you can still get a lot of those really nice immersive hand gestures that you could expect with Oculus touch controllers while not having to specifically use the Oculus SDK for it. And like I said, the built-in haptics and collision sound systems, for me, that's just awesome because it, saves you some hassle. And the character controller that's built in, it does actually use the OVR, the Oculus player controller that comes in that kit, but it modifies it a lot, so it's actually stable and usable for smooth locomotion and for teleporting really easily. And you can actually switch between the two on the fly in the demo scene they have, and it honestly works great. The teleportation system has a really simple setup. So if you want to make restricted areas and dedicated areas for teleporting, you can. The smooth locomotion, it's pretty basic, but it definitely gets the job done. Lets you go up and down inclines and declines, and if a player tries to stick their head through solid geometry, it'll fade out for them. As far as anything beyond that for the character controller, honestly, I've seen the developer in his Discord server a lot, giving people advice on different ways to customize it for their specific needs. But that's another thing that's kind of great about it is it gets a lot of the legwork done to make the player controller usable for the basic stuff, but leaves it lightweight enough to be customizable. And it is updated pretty often. Every 1.5 months, I'd say, I've seen major features come to it, adding new functionality or new examples for certain physics objects like knobs to turn, levers to pull. Just taking out a ton of legwork and doing it in a simple way that's really extendable for developers. Like the built-in system it has for like a physics joint when you grab objects. You can do a kinematic one where it follows your hand 1-to-1, or a physics joint in the same component. And the physics joint kind of had a little bit of bounciness to it for the melee weapons I was using in my zombie game. So I was able to really easily go into the component in C# and just edit the joint that it creates so that it could act a bit more how I wanted it to, whereas more based on the hand position would stay a bit more stable, but the rotation was a lot more realistic, which is how I like to do physical weapons in the games I make. And I'm got one more little clip to show of me using it. So like I mentioned, it has a really nice kind of cap sense touching, really nice animators that the hands have in the Oculus kit. You can see the grab rings it has. Those are built in. It has remote grabbing like that, so you can either have it so you can only touch it to grab it or grab things from a distance. It has a priority system. It has distance-based fading in and out on those grab rings. Honestly, really cool features that a lot of those other kits you'd have to build in yourself. Holsters, another thing that a lot of kits are going to expect you to make on your own, but it gives you a couple to mess around with and test already. Sorry, it's a little gruesome. I know not everyone loves the violent games, but that's what it is. But it is kind of what I'm working on just to show off the system. All right. So any extra questions about that? Yep, over there. Oh, okay. Sorry, I couldn't tell. Alrighty. Well, that's kind of just a basic overview of the interaction systems available. I know I kind of sped through it. I didn't want to take up too much of you guys' time going into details on all of them. Yep. Right there.
Are you going to hang out after the whole thing?
Yeah, I'm going to try to stay on it for a bit. I'm definitely going to stay through Zach's talk. One other thing I have up there is suggestions. So for anyone who's seen any clips of like the zombie thing I'm working on, like in there, I can't think of a good name for a zombie game to save my life, and anything I've thought of is already taken. So if anyone wants to, feel free to suggest a good name for a zombie kind of scavenging game where you go through kind of a grocery store with a shopping cart, just trying to get a bunch of items and survive a zombie apocalypse. Think of anything good? Let me know. Need some help.
Save your life.
Yeah, actually, I do have a Discord. I didn't put it up there. But I do have a Twitter, just at RJDoesVR, or email for anybody who wants to ask any more questions about interaction systems in Unity, or about the game, or just whatever about VR.
RJ, be sure to repeat any questions, please.
Oh, sorry. Yeah, I forgot about that. Okay. Sorry.
How could you be so irresponsible?
I know. It's terrible. My first time. My first time on the virtual stage.
Thanks, RJ. Yeah, the one big weirdness with presentations in here is you have to substitute those little quiet popping sounds for monstrous applause. Even for large event, like went to the Reggie Watts concert for about 10 minutes and last Saturday, and basically the screen just is covered in hearts and hands and smiley faces and this faint popping sounds, but other than that it's silent. Very strange. So okay, I'm going to attempt to stay on the quest and then peek out every once in a while to review my notes, because there just isn't a great way to do that. But that means I'm about to type in a URL using my controller. So you guys can talk amongst yourself for probably a good 5 minutes.
Oh. Hey,
Actually,
Robbie.
I want to talk to you after, but I have to use the restroom.
Hey, Scott, can you
Be
hear
right
me?
back.
Okay, I think it's over there.
Oh.
Hey.
There you are. Hello.
How you doing?
Is my audio on?
Your audio is on. I can hear you ask
Okay.
if your audio's on.
All
Is
right.
my audio on?
Yes.
I muted it at one point because somebody was using a skill saw out the open window. So there's a question mark over here by the screen, just to the left of the screen, behind you. You turn around.
Oh yeah, I saw that too.
Wonder what that does.
For more information on how to
For more
use
information
slides.
how to use slides for your presentations, go to okay.
Yeah.
It's. I thought it might be a way to ask the speaker a question. Yeah, how you doing?
Well, it's working already.
So
Okay, I'm up and running in record time here, guys.
Oh.
Way to
okay.
go, Zach.
I'll
Yay! Let's see. Hope the luck
wait
holds.
till afterwards.
I do have a little
Stand
bit
over
more
behind
text.
the podium, Zach.
I don't want to. I reject your real world norms.
We get the full frontal.
That I've already positioned the Twitch screen.
Oh, okay, then I will. There's a good reason. How's this? Good?
Looks great.
Okay, cool. Yeah, it's really awkward being a presenter here because, say, if I wanted to see what was on the screen, I'd just crane my head this way and try to make it out. One thing I forgot to tell everybody at the beginning, most of you have been in here before, but if you've never messed with the setting in Altspace and you're on a Quest or PC, you can go to your triangle menu and go to your settings and display, and you can up your in-world render scale to 1.6, but don't go higher because then you'll crash. And it might possibly cause problems when we play videos, but I haven't seen that today. I maybe saw it during the events. Sorry?
Say that again.
That again, really slow.
Really slow, yep. Go to your triangle Altspace menu, go to settings button,
Okay.
and on the left go to display, and then in-world render scale, you can move it up to 1.6, and the slides will get sharper. Don't go higher than that. Or as Patrick says, go higher than that, you only crash once, it works the second time. But don't do that, because you'll have to let you back in the room or some craziness. So that makes it a little sharper. I'm not sure if that would work on Oculus Go, but something to mess with. So let's see. I'm going to probably present one-handed, and my other hand is on a laptop, so don't assume anything. So mixed reality dev days. How many people heard me talk about this a year ago? I went in person back in the good old days to Redmond. Yeah, about half the people. So this is a smaller event, and that's the best thing about it. It was a smaller event. That was the best thing about it. It was in person at Redmond. It was just tagged on 2 days after the end of the giant build conference, and it wasn't exclusive, but it was kind of done through invites and referrals. So maybe 300 to 400 people there max, and that's neat because the people that are going to bother to fly there for a 2-day thing are pretty hardcore. So you can talk to anybody and have kind of an amazingly deep conversation about your little tiny narrow technical interests. And then likewise, because it's a smaller group, they let us try HoloLens 2 a year ago, before it was released. And even they said, bring your laptops, sit down at a table, and 4 or 5 teams can take turns with a HoloLens 2 for as many hours as you want. So people brought in their existing apps and ported them, or brought in their giant models to see how they'd run on the new GPU, stuff like that. And just very, very open and willing to answer technical questions and talk about warts. And it's a little bit of the opposite flavor you get at Oculus Connect, where really only very narrow, specific questions get answered. The other ones they just say they can't talk about it. Whoops. Nope, that's good. So this year hosted thousands entirely in Altspace because it was a public free event. There was a ton of signups. And the keynotes were also live in YouTube. And they're still there if you want to go watch them. Altspace, like I said, has special challenges for people that aren't familiar with it. My favorite one of the entire thing was the keynote the second day. They called it a fireside chat. And so there wasn't a big screen. There was just two people talking and answering questions that had been asked previously. And the cameramen were just like this, roaming around in Altspace, getting good angles. And then the live camera on the YouTube feed started getting personal messages popping up in front of what he was supposed to be doing. So he quick ran off in the corner, and you can see him typing, not telling him not to message him anymore because he's live. Yeah. So little stuff like that. But I actually can't see the bottom of my slide. It's obscured by a URL. Oh yeah, and it was really weird, right? So this is a fairly big event. They had a couple of key announcements. Alex Kidman was willing to just, and I guess he convinced enough people in marketing, he would just stay as an avatar the entire time. So that's all you saw of him both days. He got special hair and he got a special T-shirt, but it looks a lot like him other than his eyes. But yeah, I thought that was kind of bold to be willing to do that, to kind of embrace it. And he presented in the VR headset too. He used the Vive, not the Vive, the HP Reverb, so that lots of good pixels. And the other interesting thing you'd see once in a while, because it has a little narrower tracking volume for the controllers, he'd be looking up at something and then you see one of his hands shoot out to infinity. If I look away from this hand long enough, it's just laying here, it'll start spinning in space, or it'll take off on its own too. There's not really a timeout built into Altspace for your hands. Let's see if I can find my keyboard. There we go. So what was good? That first keynote really worked. It worked very well in VR, and the socializing was amazing. I didn't have a good screen capture of the social event, but it's just like you'd expect. You've seen any Altspace pictures, just a bunch of square-headed avatars in little clusters talking to each other. And I think Altspace has a great way of handling audio. Kind of the fall-off with distance is tweaked just right. You can form your little circle of people, and you can expand it till it's like 8 people, and everybody spreads out evenly and nice. And that mainly goes for the people in VR, because this was a bunch of developers. There was a lot of 2D screens at the event, and they had trouble with walking straight through you and blocking your view, or turning, their microphone on and then echoing stuff back, or not being able to turn their microphone on because once in a while Microsoft will default it to something weird, and it's just not that easy to get first try. And there's a networking space live across both days, so in between sessions or anytime at all. Kent Bai was there just interviewing people and then tweeting about it. Kent Bai does Voices of VR podcast. And then a fun social event at the end of the first night, and went on a tour of just some random custom worlds, and I was really impressed. The one here has got kind of a clever hack to make you feel like you're in a kayak. You can't really, my understanding is you can't affect user position at all in Altspace. So this was a kayak attached to your waist, and then you stand in the exactly waist-high river and walk on the bottom of the river that's completely flat. But the feeling is you're kayaking around, and one of the fun things is, without talking about it, everybody develops a social, acceptable social distance for making that circle and conversing with each other, and that's exactly as close as you can get with your kayaks touching each other. It's a little weird when your kayak goes through somebody else's kayak. The challenges were, this is a big event. I don't remember if I put it on a slide or not, but I believe the number was 84 instances of 30 people for the keynote session. So that room that they held the keynote in, they just fill one up until I get to 30 people, and then everybody that shows up for the event goes into the next room until it's full. And that was completely filled, and people had to move to YouTube, is what I heard. So that's pretty impressive. The numbers they were kind of saying was over 2,000 people, and 5 times as many as last year. So it was tricky to find specific people that you wanted to talk to, because you might not be in the same room as them. If you are, they all have blocky faces, and you just click each one until you see a name pop up that you recognize, which isn't quite the same as real life. You just see them from across the room and you run over there. And searching for names, you got to get it exactly right. It took me a while to notice that, but you can't do like a partial name or anything like that. You got to get the full name, the full username, or something like that, the full last name. You got to get the whole thing. So speaking of fun hands, Scott, don't look up. Everybody look above Scott. It's that gaff right there in the black. His hand is flying away from him. At least I see it up. Oh, no, he took it back. Too late. But there was a lot of that going on. There was a lot of people, taking off their headsets for a little bit. So you'd see just broken necks like this. Kind of freaky poses. And people dancing around. But you get used to that pretty fast. And then the bad. Presentations had a lot of technical issues. And the biggest one was presentations had tiny, tiny text in them. This is a screenshot from right where Marty's avatar is standing there in the black shirt. And not only is it not in Quest, it's in a laptop in 2D mode. That's the optimal possible view of their presentation right there, which is just a blurry mess. And it's probably double blurry because it's a presentation of a presentation in Altspace. But that was the number one complaint. They are going to get the videos all up online, they said, in about 2 weeks. And then because they're all videos, there was frequent problems with, for certain people, the videos were kind of quiet. And I guess one tip that I learned, you won't see it on the menu today because we don't have video player in this room, but you'll see it in the after party. We're going to go to a room with a video player, and you can control your own volume. You can either click on the screen if you're able to and set it that way, or you'll get a new menu that appears next to your Altspace menu, a little play button looking thing where you can change the volume, or you can mute it entirely if you hate the music. Also, the videos would desync. Some people in the room would not be the same, or they would just lose it completely, and then they had to re-enter the room on their own. They had to know to do that. And a couple times they just broke completely for 2/3 of the way through, and then the speaker had to kind of talk through without slides what they were going to present for the rest of the time. And the question and answer sessions were tricky the whole time. And I understand how hard that is. We're lucky here because this is a private event and we're all mature people. I just like, take care of your microphone, remind your neighbor, and you do. Whereas this was like, screaming kid shows up, click them to block them and report them. And then every variation of new person on a 2D laptop that's never used Altspace before. So it detracted. That was a little heartbroken that partway through day one, I had to kind of readjust my expectations and focus on the socializing. But all that good content will be out in a nice 2D video where you can read all the programming stuff. So highlights. This, I think, was about a half an hour, so I think it's worth watching if you care about this kind of stuff. Microsoft's putting their money where their mouth is on open source and open ecosystem. Picture there is, hey, it's a third-party browser that runs on the HoloLens, and you can deploy apps through the web browser or write them entirely in JavaScript. They're going to actually allow external app stores as well. So, and they've got set specifications if people want to make compatible hardware. So that'd be really interesting to see if anybody can kind of get in the game with them there. But there's the numbers that I was saying earlier. And And then the big news, if you've ever been trying to get a HoloLens 2 or talk to people who do want to use one, they've finally kind of caught up with demand, and they're working through the entire backlog of people that have requested one, and they're going to put them up for general sale on the website in July. And their main toolkit's called MRTK, the Mixed Reality Toolkit. It used to have a different name, but that's the official one now. And version 2.4 was announced at the event, and it officially adds Leap Motion support. So Leap Motion, not to be confused with Magic Leap, the giant company that spends a lot of money. Leap Motion is that little set of cameras, infrared cameras, that a lot of people are strapping on the front of VR headsets. And it was really funny at the Dev Days last year, where there was lots of sessions by developers that worked on HoloLens 2 apps. All the videos showed them wearing VR headsets with Leap Motions on the front, because hardware was even scarce to them back then. And then someone asked obvious questions like, well, obviously you've got a compatibility layer built in already. Why don't you ship that? And they said, because of licensing problems. And there have been unofficial integrations. The one out of Japan has had the most functionality, but it's not robust like you'd want to ship an app with it. So this is kind of official support. And they really are kind of embracing that. There's a full functional, as much as you can with the hardware, a full functional port for Quest as well. So hand tracking and everything like that. Obviously you can't do eye tracking in the Quest. So that was a big deal. Other ones? What's that?
I saw the
Yep.
3.4 release came out officially today. It's online now.
The official announcement?
The availability. It's officially
Yeah.
released.
So I guess they announced it last week, and Matt said they shipped it today, got it in the GitHub and made it public. Other keynote highlights: Azure Spatial Anchors is out of beta. I've got a little more detail on that later, but that was the thing I was kind of most worked up about last year, and then never could get a project to work on it. But that lets you share kind of permanent spaces in the world, permanent anchors across devices, across ARKit on iOS, ARCore on Android, and HoloLens 1 or 2. And it's supposed to be pretty robust against like lighting changes and weather changes, and you moved a little bit of your furniture and stuff like that. Azure Remote Rendering is in public preview. It was private before. And it's been tested and working on 1 billion polygon objects, which is kind of nuts to think about. So that's you render in the cloud and you beam the result into your live HoloLens or other headset that can't handle that much rendering, obviously. HoloLens 2, the reason they were kind of behind, 7x the demand of HoloLens 1 and already 4 times the usage. And that's because they're going out in deployments. They're not just sitting in the R&D lab as much like HoloLens 1 did. They're getting deployed to frontline workers. And there's actually a lot, if you're interested in the business of it and who's using it and what they're using it for, there's a good variety of things they referenced in there. And then there's white papers and other presentations you can look up from that. But it's from everything from training to remote supervision to all kinds of education, different stuff like that. And they spent some of the keynote time on some videos from the UK. So they had good success with just reducing the number of people that needed to go get exposed to COVID in the different ER areas by utilizing the camera on the front of the HoloLens and sending one poor victim in there to walk around to the patients and communicate via HoloLens with the doctors and other people that weren't in there. And then a really neat one where Ford UK retooled part of their assembly line to just build ventilators. And some of the stuff they used there, they did remote expertise and remote viewing through the camera, just even on the same factory floor to save time. So you could just beam somebody in to look at your diagnostics on your electronics that you're putting together. So I'm not going to cover every session, but the ones that I kind of like the best, or I think might be the most interesting to people here. So Azure Remote Rendering. This is not to be confused with what already existed, which they call remoting or holographic remoting because they aren't good at naming things. And that's where you run something on your PC and beam the entire frame to your HoloLens. So all that the HoloLens does is send sensor data to the PC, and the PC sends back the entire image. And that feels kind of laggy, but it's a really fast way to do development and it's built right into Unity. So you can just hit the play button and see it in your headset. This is Azure Remote Rendering. So this is giant cloud machine crunching away on your super heavy model. So the menus and other content remains local, running in your app. And then you add an object to your Unity scene that is the remote thing that'll be rendered. You can still manipulate it. There's two blue dots on the side of that engine, and there's really skinny lines coming off them. That's what the two-handed manipulations look like on HoloLens 2. And so they had a demo of doing all these silly things with the menu and then manipulating this super heavy engine. I don't remember if I grabbed the cutaway plane. Let me just peek at the next slide. Nope. So they pulled a cutaway plane through this engine so you could see the cylinders and all the insides of it and all this kind of stuff you can never dream of doing on a HoloLens 1 or 2. And so anybody can test this out now, and there's the pricing. While it's in preview mode, it's kind of reduced price. Obviously, there's certain people in the room that work on CAD models that might want to test this out. And some of the little gotchas to definitely look at are, this is not your renderer, this is their high performance renderer for the cloud. So you have limited amount of lights and different features. So you can't tweak it exactly the way you want possibly, but it did seem to look pretty nice in all the demos. And then you can also spin up multiple HoloLens 1s or 2s, and they'll each get assigned a new fresh server. You don't have to do all that setup if you want to switch from working on one headset to 10 headsets. You just go ahead and do it. And then start getting charged 10 times $3 an hour, which still is peanuts for business stuff. There's a demo called Surfaces. Has anybody tried this out on the Quest or HoloLens 2? So it's a nice hand tracking demo. Encourage you to try it out. It's on SideQuest. This is my favorite talk, actually. This guy has this really long career doing stuff in CG and different graphics related industries. And he just wanted to come up with a whole bunch of new ideas for hand interactions, that were kind of felt pleasing to do and, had good enough performance to run on a HoloLens. And so to iterate enough times, he limited himself to 3 hours per prototype and strictly cut off, prototypes that were looking okay, but it was going to take too long to figure out, if you can get the performance or some other factor in line. And I think it's got like 10 different things in there. They're all pretty great. And he wanted to push what the shaders can do because a lot of designers get kind of upset with the small number of high performance shaders in VRTK, but he wanted to show that these shaders can be used for creative stuff. Here's a couple of recipes. And all these things are open source now. Basically everything they do, Microsoft does, gets put into GitHub. The other great part of that talk, and the reason why it was my favorite. Oh, yeah, so these, before I get to that, these are the types of interactions that he prototyped. He kind of broke them into these categories. So interacting with the sphere, by proximity, that examples with little people running around on the surface of a globe. Tethers is basically like the lightning one, although it's kind of a randomized tether. Impacts where you can break up the ground and let lava through and stuff like that. And deformations, water-like stuff, and clay and earth. This is why the talk was so great. He went through all the different ways you can offload in the Unity editor to additional threads. That's a must on HoloLens and kind of on Quest to maintain frame rate. And this is just one of his slides. He had about 4 or 5. And for him, he settled on tasks and talked about why. And then kind of the workarounds you have to do, because you're not allowed to touch any of the native Unity objects in the main thread. You have to make your own data structure to copy back and forth to their secondary threads. But talked about how he can use these things asynchronously as long as he doesn't care about how many frames they take to finish. And it's actually very little code to do that. So that's my highest recommendation for pretty much anybody. Azure Spatial Anchors. So like I said, for iOS, Android, you know, the good Android phones, not every Android phone for sure. HoloLens. And notably not PC. So that's kind of the weird one. It'd be really great if you could quickly prototype on PCs or PC tablets, but that's not the case. And it built on top of SLAM that they leave to the platform holders to figure out. And then SLAM is simultaneous location and mapping. So that's all the stuff when, you know, for ARKit and ARCore, when you move your phone around and it looks pretty stable. Those are variations on SLAM algorithms. Azure Spatial Anchors adds localization across space and time. And time meaning night, day, different seasons. They claimed. I'd like to see that. It's kind of a long test to run. And sharing across devices is the huge one. You don't have to worry about how Android versus iOS, you know, what the data structures are to remember a space. They took care of all that for you. And it's out of beta and in general availability, and it's free for like 2 months. So hop in there if you want to do a prototype while it's free. And I believe they have the actual pricing already up on their page, so you're not going to get surprised. Does anybody use Maquette, Microsoft Maquette? Is that a question back there in the back, sir?
Yeah, you said it's free, but there's no per hour charges or anything like that?
Yeah, this is a lot more of a lightweight service. You're basically, there's a limit. I don't remember the number. It's like 7 or 10 or something. So there's a limit about the number of descriptors you can download to your device, and that's mainly for actually the battery power on your phone or tablet. And so you set them up in this kind of linked map. So if I have seen, you know, my location 1, then I know the neighboring locations are 2, 3, and 7 or something. So then you can ask it for send me the nearest other anchor points I could be looking for, or you can request them by name. You can, you know, our buildings have identical elevator bays on every floor, so you have to prompt people and say, what floor are you on? And then they say floor 7, and you go look for that specific anchor to get them started, because otherwise there'd be no way to tell them apart. Down the road, I don't think it's going to be free, so yeah, you definitely want to check out the planned pricing. Most of their stuff, though, is awful cheap until you really scale it high. Does anybody in here use Maquette? What'd you use it for, Matt?
I just downloaded it and just played around with the tool set to get an idea of what to do. It's pretty neat.
Yeah, it looks. Yeah, especially
One thing
I think
you don't have on your list is that there's actually a Unity integration, so you can export the entire screen, lights and everything, then import it directly into Unity as well.
Yeah, they did talk about that during the Q&A. They said, you know, you won't get those models to play nice on Android or HoloLens necessarily, but on the PC for sure, you can just run it.
It feels like a combination of like a really nice gray boxing tool and with like Google Poly style 3D modeling tools. Pretty neat.
Yeah.
It has lots of good thought put into some things.
And probably the most impressive part, obviously this guy's a pro, but he built that thing on the screen there, that room, those people, the couches, and then that kind of prototype movie UI in 3D space. He built that live, well, not live, it was recorded video. He built that by hand in less than 15 minutes, I'd say about 10 or 12 minutes. And he was just sitting there talking and resizing things. And
I think
some really neat.
Their plan for it so far. It started out as an internal tool, right? And then it's for like quickly prototyping spatial stuff. You know, that's basically.
Patrick, are you able to hear Matt? from back there?
Yeah.
Such a good
Yeah,
outfit. Is GLB a graphics format that anybody knows? You know, people. Yeah, I don't know if that's right. Could be GLTF, maybe. I know that one.
Probably.
But it didn't sound like what he said. But and then one super killer feature. Every time you put your HoloLens on and put some graphics on, you're like, wow, those colors are really messed up. And the big one being black is invisible on an additive display. So black, gray, you know, they're all pretty much do nothing to a clear additive display. So there's just a button to switch that on when you're doing this in VR, just to simulate what it's going to look like. That's pretty cool.
It simulates the viewport too.
Get that slide twice. This one was amazing as well. MRTK UX building blocks in Park. I think he's done a lot of research stuff. This is the first time I've ever heard him talk, though. Has anybody used MRTK or played around with it? A little bit. Have you used the new stuff with these glorious looking buttons in the picture?
So I just the other day ripped out all the shader stuff and brought it in so I could just use it outside of MRTK.
Okay.
So all the full UX, the proximity lights, all the MRTK standard shader. It actually works really good. So
What's the tastiest?
What's the what?
What's the tastiest?
Tastiest. In terms of what I liked, all these things I listed here are feedback for pushing on one button. So they did a lot of work to the best way for people to push these buttons when they can't feel, they don't have haptics. They can't actually feel touching the button, pushing it, activation point, any of that stuff. So all those things.
The light and the focus light are part of the shader set, so you can use those directly.
Yeah, this would have been better with a video or an animated GIF, but there's kind of you get to kind of aim your finger towards the button to know you're going in the right direction. As you get closer, the light gets brighter and larger to know you're closing in, and then kind of the whole button changes as you start pushing it, and then you get kind of a sound and a visual thunk, let's say, as you reach the activation point. And they said all those things are important, and of course none of us would have the time to build that, so they built it. And it's a great talk, because then he goes and dissects the different parts. If you did want to tweak some of those things, they're in there. And the other part that I liked a whole lot, this is a bad picture. He talked a lot about menus, and you know, you can have your body lock menu like an Altspace that more or less stays relative to your body position. You can have stuff attached to your hand, and particularly on the HoloLens, not quite as much on Quest. You can attach like a menu to your left hand and then activate it with your right hand, which they say people use a lot for common commands. And what a lot of people have settled on is just my left hand here. So you just flip your left hand over, a menu appears next to it, and you tap. There it is. You tap on the buttons next to your left hand. One of the things that they eventually found, though, is when people are doing other actions and not thinking about menus, they're manipulating 3D objects and turning and rotating them. Eventually the menu would pop up and something would go wrong. So in order to kind of prevent that, because also the HoloLens 2 has eye tracking, they have a thing you can turn on that says, when I activate the menu, it has to be the hand pose, and I need to be looking where the menu should be. So either looking at my hand or looking directly at the menu spot. Is that a question, Brock? Or are you stretching?
Yeah.
You lost your hand.
How much better is the occlusion of other parts of your fingers, or other fingers on your hand, when it comes to tracking on this system than it is from Quest?
Speaking in terms of Quest,
your
so
hand
Quest
rotates, it loses tracking of your ring finger and pinky. How much better is this technology than the Quest right now?
two things I'll talk about. One of the big ones on Quest, though, is you touch your hands together, all bets are off. You just lose them completely, and if you cross them, you lose them as well. So the HoloLens handles that. It's got a little bit of a better vantage point and more cameras to look at your hands, but there still are angles where you can angle your hand down that it can't see your fingers. So I think it would be possible to break it, but especially on Quest, people are trying to do like physics games with hands, and on HoloLens, they're generally not. They're trying to manipulate a specific object with a cursor or a tether, or they're just pushing buttons, basically. So it's a little less common. And then the other way you can think of occlusion for hand tracking is, do the hands occlude the holograms they're in front of? And they don't even attempt that. But the interesting thing is, you don't miss it because all these holograms are translucent anyway. Even if you do pure white, you can still see through it because it's a clear display. So your depth registration kind of accepts that your hand is going through it. If you watch a video of HoloLens 2, it looks terrible because the hands are always underneath the menu, even though they're clearly depth-wise in front of it. And that's just the nature of the display being not on the HoloLens, it's on a regular monitor. Let's see, next one. Fireside chat. So this is sort of like keynote day 2. And it's a neat space, right? But they never use the screen for anything. And I'm way back to show all the people. But even in the front row, you couldn't really see them that well. So why did they have this space for 2 people to talk to each other? If you watch on YouTube, there's cameramen that roam around and get the good angles. And this is where the one guy started getting messages while he was live broadcasting to YouTube. And it was pretty funny. But this is great, too, if you're kind of interested in kind of the philosophies and roadmaps. Spent a lot of time kind of dwelling on the open source ideas and the open ecosystem ideas, like separate stores, separate ways to deploy apps, and then talked a little bit about kind of privacy and ethics things, and kind of in regards to the sensors, all the sensor data. There was a HoloLens 1 mode called research mode that gave you raw access to every sensor on the device, but they didn't want people to distribute those apps, and they didn't want them in the app store because you have raw access to all the sensors on the device. So if you give that to a bunch of people, eventually something weird will happen and somebody will do something naughty with it. But yeah, it's a really interesting talk. Not much to look at while it's going on, so you could just run into his audio in the background. And I think that was just a little over half an hour as well. And because the VR views were kind of messed up and it was really hard to take notes, this is actually my way I attended almost every session. So 2D Altspace and VI on the side to take notes. And that's kind of one of the big problems is you can't do normal stuff in VR. You can't take notes. You can't clearly see screens. And that's where it'll be interesting to see how these things evolve. I think we will move to something that can switch in and out of 2D mode, because really for looking at little text, 2D mode's the way to do it. And for socializing, you want to be in the VR, especially as it gets better and better at showing expressions and things like that. So let's see if there's anything left. I don't think so. Oh yeah, bonus. So one of the things that I didn't really bother to think about is people like us. We've got Carlos in here somewhere. Is he still here?
I think he's missing.
We lost Carlos, but we briefly had Carlos. We inherited him from Texas. It's because one of our former members moved down there. Because everybody's moving online, like you can go to other meetups in big places like San Francisco. You can go to their meetup. They get speakers directly from Microsoft that are releasing new features, or entire teams from Microsoft to show up. They still struggle with Altspace too, but this one in particular. So this is the exact name, Microsoft HoloLens and Mixed Reality, and it's on meetup.com. It's a San Francisco meetup, focus on that stuff. And these are their last 2 talks in Altspace. I'm not sure how I found them, but both good talks, both kind of troublesome in Altspace. So they are putting up 2D Teams versions as well. They can just watch the video on Teams. And I recommend them both. This one was, I guess, more if you're interested in web stuff. So they're actually moving, making a framework so you can deploy apps with hand tracking. So you can deploy something on the web with JavaScript, and it can activate the hand tracking on the HoloLens and do meaningful things with it. So it's not like when I say deploy on HoloLens, you're not just going to have something with a cursor that you drag the cursor and type. It's actual hand tracking. They're trying to get all the features deployable through a web browser. It's pretty neat if you care about that kind of stuff. And this one's super neat. This is their Scene Understanding is the new name for it. They had a different name on HoloLens 1. But this weird, colorful view is taking that big polygon soup that you might have seen from the HoloLens 1. Or if you haven't seen that, it looks basically like the exact same polygon soup you get out of the iOS stuff, like with the new LiDAR cameras and things. Pretty much like that. But it's doing some super duper fancy stuff to decompose it. So you have these simple planes for your ground, you have simple rectangles for your furniture. This weird green thing that doesn't look so good, that's his countertop. It's not a simple shape, but it's, it's kind of tessellating that and keeping it nice and flat. And the important thing about that is then you can run physics directly against that mesh without it going berserk. And it takes up less memory. So this guy mapped the inside of his house just using this library and not doing manual cleanup afterwards. What we've always done is go and scan a space in the HoloLens, and then the artist I work with, Shane, manually builds the structures inside that polygon soup so we can have a nice low poly reference geometry to work against. This does all that, and it starts to tag things too, like windows and doors. I didn't grab a screenshot, but one of the most interesting ones was, let's say you build an app that needs a wall, and it'll show you all the walls, and then it will actually project onto that rectangle or that quad. It'll project things like, this is the window, you can't use this part. This is a bookcase against that wall, you can't use that part. So it decomposes this tricky 3D math into a nice 2D rectangle math. So I think it's going to be a really big deal. I think it'll become the standard that people need to build AR stuff that interacts with the world. So that's a meetup to check out. So yeah, any random questions about the event or anything else? HoloLens or anything like that? Going. Okay. So I think for the socializing, we're going to start a tour. So it's time to learn a little bit more about Altspace features. Here, let me get rid of this laptop, though.
Say that again?
So the first room we're going to go to is a custom space that one time I was in there and I got super excited because it had an open video playlist. For everyone's safety, they don't allow random people to play random videos for other random people inside Altspace. But I found a space that did let me do that. I was super excited. Every time I've gone back, and actually that one was tied to YouTube, so you can assume pretty safe content there. But every time I've gone back, it's put on a permanent playlist that we can't control. So we'll just see if we're able to when we get there. Otherwise, we'll just use it as background music. And when we all get in there, I'll teach you all how to fly. That's another good Altspace trick. The name of the world, in case you get lost from the group. Actually, so has everybody in here either friended me or IGDA TC? Is Patrick here anymore? Did he disappear? Oh, there he is. What are you going to do? Are you going to stay on your laptop or are you going to switch to VR? I can't hear you. I mean, those are good gestures.
Yeah, I've been in both the whole time. So I'm going to shut down my laptop and just be in VR.
So that's you in VR right now?
Me?
Oh, so you're the IGDA. This is confusing. You're the IGDA avatar.
Yes.
And you're in a VR headset. And in some other space, you're logged in on the laptop.
No.
Is there two of you in this room? Or was there?
No.
Oh, all right.
Oh,
whatever.
No, I'm not doing 2D mode. No. I've just got the admin panel up.
Gotcha. Okay. Yeah, so conservative Brooklyn rooftop.
I don't know if I have. It's been Worlds, right?
Yep. So I'll go. I'll take people there in the first wave. Do you want to hold back and see who gets left behind, or do you have it?
Is that the Commons? It says Commons.
Nope.
Oh, no, I don't have
You'll,
it then.
you'll see it once we get there. It'll become like the third most popular world just when our group gets there.
And the thing we can do is, it's the buddy system, right? If you're friended with anybody who gets there, you can get out and say, "Hey, let me go where you are," right?
Exactly.
Yeah.
Everybody understand that?
And I have created a portal, so anybody that wants to go with me, come up here and click this blue thing. And hopefully everybody will go, if you're able to. A couple of people are dead with their heads craned upwards. All you have to do is click on the blue thing and you'll get added. And then we'll all go together.
In Brooklyn
So
rooftop.
almost all of us. Yep. Brooklyn rooftop. Here we go. You'll get
Across the
prompted to
stream.
confirm this.
This feels cultish or something.
David, we're gonna
Confirm.
Influence may vary.
Or you've got a play button on your menu now. Turn the volume down.
Ooh, a little lo-fi going on up there.
Yep.
Oh, are these free? Or are they pay?
You have to put your glass on the tray when you're done.
Yep. You can't just throw that glass. You got to put it back in the tray. This room has flying enabled, and I kind of hate the default flying, so I'll show you guys the and then go settings and items. You can spawn a flight tool. It looks like a little pen. If when you get ready to drink, just click on the tray. Not intuitive. But, yeah. You can fly with your other hand. If you want to drink with your right hand, you can fly with your left hand. And then, nope, for the pen, you just hold it with the grip button, and then you push the trigger and go in a certain direction.
Sweet.
And anytime you let go of the pen, it's body lock to you, so I like to move it just out of my field of view. So it's not fucking, it'll stay there with me when I walk around. So, yeah, that's flying.
Oh, you gotta turn around by actually turning.
Seems like
So how do you fly?
While you're holding it, use the trigger, and then move your arm.
Oh my god.
And you move it around.
You can go slow.
How do you get down?
Slow is an option. Just as you click the trigger, move just a tiny bit afterward. That's your speed. It's a relative position equals speed. There you got it.
I think we're gonna lose Scott. He's gonna just be stuck in the sky forever.
Scott's going to,
Hi,
Scott's going to heaven.
Bye, Scott.
And Scott,
Oh, there we go. Yeah, how do you said how to turn the music down?
Yep, just click on the screen and you'll get a volume control.
You can do. Everybody can do it themselves.
Yeah, it's individual.
There you go.
So, Patrick and the naked IGD accounts are in the hot tub over there.
Is that a
It
laser
says,
pointer or a newbie?
Oh my god.
Well, I think it's whatever you make it.
Getting dark.
Where do you get this laser pointer?
You go to settings, items, a new menu, and you can spawn it.
If I go over there, I can't hear anything. Gotta be nearby.
Yeah, you do.
All I've got is a Jimmy Claw.
Jimmy Cam. You're in setting items and you don't have flex here?
No, I'm on 2D. I don't have a 3D space anymore.
So you can turn on the old school flying, which is under menu general. No, it isn't. Menu input settings input. There's a checkbox.
Oh, there's fly. Yep.
And you just basically walk into the sky. Aim your head up and walk. Yeah, how do you roll off? A tricky thing.
The roll off is severe here.
Yeah.
Right.
And it has to be, or the crowd is basically you don't hear anything. Usually,
Yeah.
I think it's all.
Chatter and everything.
Yeah.
Well, I love that the
Yeah,
music's
so-
volume is like really loud or off.
Yep. And everybody has to do it and tell everybody else to do it themselves. Like those disco meetups, those are 50 people. So without the volume off, that's really good enough. But Marty had the good idea for us a way to indicate, what's happening in each corner of the world. These guys are talking about contracting and whatever. It'd be cool to have like a post-it note.
Direction, how fast
You know,
they're going.
something you spotted in the other engage. I think was the other thing that
Have you played with the MRTK shaders yet?
Not since last fall when it first came out.
I've used them a bunch.
They're pretty good. They're optimized
Mobile.
for mobile. Kind of cool.
I just like not having to make my own.
Are you using MRTK or new stuff?
I tried and got angry.
Yeah.
And the documentation is lacking, and I don't know. I just hate developing on we only have HoloLens ones, and it's horrible.
Campfire thing.
Yeah, it's pretty good.
Yeah.
This room runs on the go. That's what they said.
Hey, Robbie. Yeah. Have you been up on the roof yet? Can you
fly?
Did you learn how to fly?
Does the pin unspawn?
Oh, you're
Yeah.
too big.
Where's Robbie? Blue?
There's a airway.
So there's Robbie, you can do old school flying. If you go to the menu and then settings input, there's not a checkbox. And then
Turn fly off, you fall. That's cool.
there's contest.
Unity package, Zach, that strips out all of the
Oh. So Robbie, for that flying, you just look up and walk away. Right, you're echoing back a little bit. Do you have a headset?
Do what now?
Do you have a headset? Headphones?
Yeah.
Oh, yeah, you're echoing back.
Am I?
Yeah, just a little. It's not bad like others I've heard.
Still?
Nope. What'd you do?
Nothing.
Oh, yep. What'd you didn't do? It's pretty quiet.
Weird. I wonder if it's... I got headphones on. I don't know why they pick up everything but the mic.
It is kind of funny to see Zach's like words echo in your mouth.
Yeah.
No.
And it was a road trip at the event. There's like 3 people. Sneak. Daisy. But somebody have a dog barking or Spanish music lessons for a little kid in the background.
How about that?
Just they unmute the audience instantly. There's just noise.
You still hear
So Marty, how did I'm still hearing it, but it's not like super offensive. It's just that was me. Marty, how is it? 300 people in there? Oh, he's dead. Is there anything you get any use out of rendering?
I would love to play with that stuff, but it's very unlikely given what we do.
They do have a lot of strong
control your data.
privacy. Yeah, your dictating.
Yeah, the biggest problem I have is being like a one-guy team, so all this stuff requires, somebody to dog after IT and purchasing and everything else, so I'm stuck in the, what can I do on a side computer? I think
for that Azure,
pretty good.
that Azure rendering, was it just, you just put one file up there and you just get to look at it?
So you upload a file and it does a conversion to their runtime. That's the 75-cent part. Then you use like a URL in your application, and that's how you show up.
But how
So
about things
basically-
like, well, what about like exploded? Can you do exploded views, or can you kind of curate the viewing of it, or anything like that, or is it just?
So the 2 demos, I bet you there's probably videos that go into all the different options to make sure people know that they're there. 2 things that showed at this conference, they did a cutting plane. So they had this, I don't remember, 20 million polygon
What's up, Matt?
And they did a cutting plane that they're showing from Holland. So they're able to pass that position data into the renderer. That's remote.
Okay.
And then they did a tremendous manipulation to rotate and scale the engine.
This pen thing is pretty cool. Flying pen.
So I would think an exploded view would be a really common ask.
It's not seen
But
something
could I
like
could I grab part of the engine and disassemble it at will?
I played with one of the other
I bet you could define a couple
input systems with some new aspects
every
that
single
has a controller for this for the view based on
relative to the point exploded view where it's always going to be
I do.
Yeah, it seems kind of like a baby step to start with. Just being able to render something like that, or kind of limited use of usefulness.
Yeah.
Yeah,
People
I
are grabbing them from a lot of these final apps is what my guess would be.
Yeah, I think the real.
What was the cutting thing you were showing in your example?
So I think that's the series that I did that input that manipulation. So Holland grab not to get in Holland's too. Then you can scale it or rotate. So they demoed that, and then they showed the cutting plane through the engine and then shifting up and down to different cylinder heads and things. So there's
Hollow length thing for cutting planes.
So that would be a standard feature that we're cloud that it can pass in data for a cutting plane. So they have to kind of add the features that people want. It's one big catch, but there's a lot of similar ones. I think that would be there. We were talking about exploding the engine and moving parts of it instead of the whole. I would think like you could somehow tag, parts of your hierarchy to say this is something I can grab. That'd be my guess.
Yeah.
I don't know.
I have a question about Steam VR. I had it running just fine, and I went to upgrade my graphics card driver, and then all of a sudden everything just would not load. Like the Steam apps, like, you know, Altspace, and I didn't have crazy stuff, so I didn't even have games, and then just all of a sudden nothing worked. So I don't know if anybody's run into weirdness like that. Yeah, and that's quirkiness number 2, is in both cases when I loaded up Steam VR and Altspace, no, it was Steam VR, it would get to like 1.8 gigs and just stop downloading, and it needs to get to 2 gig. And in one case, I read something on Reddit or somewhere that they said, no, just let it go, and like literally after 2 days, I can't logged in, and I'm like, oh, it did it. So, yeah, I just, to maybe get around this problem, I reloaded everything. I reloaded Steam, and then I reloaded Steam VR, and same thing happened again. It stopped at 1.8, and now I've been letting it sit for a couple days. I don't know if it's a Boston Scientific, you know, security issue. I mean, it did eventually take, but I always get this, you know, I hit download and it'll kind of cycle a little bit, and then it'll say, oh, queued up for 5 minutes from now. And so it just tries every 5 minutes until it's happening.
You've been installing software in your work?
Yeah, if you know how to surreptitiously add yourself as admin.
Probably can't have
Like
Don't you?
everybody.
They give us the ability to elevate if we do.
Yeah.
And we can elevate something. So what you do is you elevate the master, what is it, the MMC file. So, and then once you elevate that, then you can add yourself as admin, and then you're good to go.
Thanks.
You can do anything.
We have that option, but we also have scanners that come by and tell you where you should uninstall.
Yeah. We don't have that yet. I'd be in big trouble because pretty much nothing I use is official. Maya's not.
Yeah, we've got kind of 2 different tiers to handle patient information in order to definitely don't. No, we can have.
Yeah, we're kind of lucky in that
self-managed.
We're by the nature of what we do, we don't work on product. We're exempt from a lot of that kind of scrutiny, which is nice. So I was hoping to be on the VR headset tonight, but you know, I'm back on the PC. I demoed and talked to the co-founder of a company called MindDesk, which is kind of interesting. It's CAD VR in a headset, and what they're doing is actually it's a plug-in for either Rhino or SolidWorks, and they're not doing any conversion. They're actually VRing the experience right out of the CAD. So the nice thing about that versus what Azure's doing, there's no conversion.
Yeah.
So if you pull up this huge assembly in SolidWorks, they're just rendering that in the VR headset. So that's kind of compelling because then we don't need to convert these big things, and you get a lot of display. They sent me an assembly that they had, and it was this big kind of like rotary motor for an airplane. And it's a pretty heavy set, and I was able to get that in the headset. But anything I had at Boston Scientific, it just puked. It didn't. I mean, like a little extruded ball to get, and there was something about the file that they didn't like. So he's like, "Oh well, I'll get my engineers on that and see what's going on." He was in Sicily, Italy.
Yeah, I could see then you can kind of preview it in 3D and then go ahead.
Well, yeah, you could have. Well, you could have somebody working on the model in SolidWorks and have somebody else looking at it in VR. Now, I didn't get as far as doing things like that because I'm like, well, how do I manipulate it? Someone else manipulates the same model. Like, is it kind of a toss back and forth like in Teams or I don't know? Didn't get that.
So in VR,
You could disassemble it, so you could click on things and disassemble it, like literally tear the whole thing apart. And you're doing that in SolidWorks. You're actually doing it in SolidWorks via the helmet. Yeah, that's what I'm saying. And on the, are you familiar with Rhino? It's another CAD software. It's more industrial design based.
Yeah.
Yeah, they actually had a lot of cooperation with the developers of Rhino, so that you could actually do modeling stuff in VR, and you're actually.
So Zach, why is the HoloLens so much lighter than all the most other headsets? How do they implement?
Crazy stuff. They got magnesium and carbon fiber, passive cooling, so super low wattage, everything. That they can cool it passively, and then they don't need to move it kind of heat sinks in there. Yeah, it's kind of a marvel of engineering. It really is.
Do we have any sort of breakdown for like this meeting today? Who's using what headset?
No, it'd be interesting to know. Stats like that somewhere.
I'm using the Odyssey
You
Plus.
could just ask.
Odyssey.
Yep.
What are you using, Lucky?
Index. Super muted.
Yep, sorry, I'm using the index. I had my controller turned off and it took like a couple seconds to get back on. Yeah, I'm using the index.
Yeah. Especially when you're on stage, it's hard to ignore when people's hands are like flying away, or the best ones will start spinning like this. I'm doing it myself. I'll just sit there most times.
So I'm,
it's all this motion out there. You're trying to figure out if
So what I really wish I had, and I guess I could take a selfie of myself, is when you were talking about my hand disappearing.
Yep.
There's no way for me to look at it myself.
Yeah, it was floating over your head. It was pretty bizarre.
Well, I'm trying to do it again.
I suppose that's true if you look at it and it starts tracking you.
I'm looking at you right now, Scott, and your left hand is the robot's feet just rotating.
Yeah.
Yep.
That's sort of the exact same thing I was doing in the thing. So what are you using, Matt?
I went to Quest and
Yeah, just use Quest. Or did it go back to anything else?
I love my Quest. I was going to do it outside, Matt, like we did last summer, about this time. Yeah, that's kind of sad. The IO would have happened like next week.
Yep.
Or 2 weeks.
Yeah, did that get refunded? Did you buy a ticket for this year?
They had refunds. They begged you to let them keep some of it.
Yeah.
I let him keep. And I can't remember. I let him keep some of it as a donation again. Like buying cards at a restaurant, buying gift cards at a restaurant right now.
I wonder if Eventbrite did anything, because they took money off the top when you bought that ticket. I wonder if they did anything nice.
Yeah, well, I don't.
Full refund. They'd be paying extra for every person.
Well, they talked about that, and then I think they, might have a non-refundable deposit with the walker.
Yeah, sure.
Or something like that. So, and then they were just talking about how, that's how they live. Several of them is
that's not good.
And if they gave all the money back, they would have no income for the year. So I'd be interesting to hear, who took their money back and who didn't.
Yeah.
we have an issue right now with all of our money is through ticket sales and donations. And we had to cancel 3 shows. We're trying to figure out what point this is going to do something. That's our
Didn't think of that one.
One of the groups that manages the and I called them, they're like, we're shut down, we're not doing anything.
Especially not refunds.
Yep.
the Minnesota, the Minneapolis St. Paul International Film Festival is supposed to be going on, and they're doing things where they're showing you can stream most of the movies for quite a bit of money. It was like $12. I'm a member, so I think it's like $8 or something. But you get to sort of watch it whenever you want to. But I don't know.
But other people don't have that.
Isn't
A
one of
couple
the film
things, though.
festivals? One of the film festivals happening online in VR and the museum of
Oh. Well, one of the things was, what I thought was really ironic is the Walker had some film festival. It was like a Native American film festival. And one of the things is a VR, you do it with headsets thing. And they wound up having to go virtual for everything. I mean, online for everything. Except for the headset thing. I kept hoping that, I'd be able to do the headset thing from home. And they just weren't set up for that. They just, that was like the one presentation they didn't do. That was, it sounded like it was kind of cool. So Zach and maybe Patrick and Marty, I'm talking with my minion about Matt. Which is ways away. It's about
Who's your minion?
Probably what's that?
Who's the minion?
Alicia and Emery, the guys from what are they called? Man, they used to be called. They have their own company. Foreign Fauna.
Horse.
But they both work at 504. They approached me a few months ago to sort of have them and the Nice Moves guys help out with that. And maybe become part of Nice Moves and sort of figuring that out. But I might want some advice from you and Marty about what the best way to try to do something virtual is. The Twitch.
So they actually got video playing behind you right now. Going to look at the quality.
So
it's okay.
I watched some Netflix the other day. I watched 3 episodes of a TV show on Netflix in here. And you've sat in my basement and looked at my HDTV and complained about how I've had it set up. Apparently, I'm not the most finicky person when it comes to video. I kind of dug it. It worked. I was surprised at how good it was. Just watching some high def TV shows or cartoons, the anime.
I think the big trick for groups is audio. You got to decide if there's a muted room or if there's, you try to expect people to behave and their microphones to work right. That's the big trick.
And for most of the mat, it's Marty's been doing with Twitch for the VRH. For the IDVA.
Yeah.
We'll let people type maybe. I don't know.
Yeah. That solves the audio problem.
We don't have any of the visitors, the audience can't hear them.
Yeah.
Because what I would love to do is this, but nobody, I'm here with the Minneapolis VR community.
Yep. And it took us how long to get in the room?
Well, yeah, but you just were at a thing that 24,000 people did, or 23,000 people did, 2,300 people did. So there's ways of doing it. How many? If we tried really hard, if we paid people in the Twin Cities that we know to come and do this thing we're doing right now, what's the maximum number of people you think we get?
That's a good question. Places like this are built to instance. They'll basically, this room would get reproduced with a different set of people in it. And then whoever's the presenter would get copied to every room. That's kind of the basics of what they do.
That's what the HoloLens thing was that you went to. That's what it was like. Right?
Yeah. But still, with Microsoft funding and Microsoft presenters and Microsoft owning Altspace, they still had problems.
Oh, so Microsoft owns Altspace?
Yeah.
Oh, I didn't know that.
They were searching for funding and then they shut down, and then a couple weeks later they announced that they got last minute help, and it was Microsoft.
So Zach, this is Robbie. I was trying to get into those talks last week, and I kept getting bounced to the same one, which I thought, did I just randomly get bounced to something, or did everybody get bounced to the same generic one?
There was an open space, and then there was a bunch of separate events. And the weird thing is, when you go to an event, it doesn't tell you there's 10 instances and which one you're going to. You just go, and then it might or might not be going well inside that instance.
Okay.
My advanced Altspace survival tips are a lot of the events will open early, and try to make friends with people that work or present, and then go to whatever instance they're in by following your friend, because that one will work or it'll get fixed, and the other ones might break.
They didn't do a good job at telling you what just happened to you, because I would get bounced, and I'm like, oh, I'm in, and then you start, wait a minute, this doesn't seem right, and then you check the title. It's like, well, wait a minute, I'm not in the right place, and then you do it again, and that kind of looks right.
Oh, and you were clicking on events and ending up in different rooms, basically?
Well, I would go back to the menu and pick the one I wanted to go to, because I wanted to see that Azure renderer, and it would send me somewhere, and without telling me that, oh, hey, you know what, that one's full, but here you go. That's what they should have done.
Oh.
But instead, they just put me in some place, and I just assumed I was in the right place.
And they all look the same, and there's 5 of them at the same
more or
time.
less.
Yeah.
I don't know.
Oh,
I don't.
bummer.
I have no expectation of what it's going to look like.
That was the first session, the first breakout of the entire thing, and yeah, it got full somehow. And that's when you messaged me, and I'm like, yeah, I got kicked out, and you just keep trying for 10 minutes, and then someone else loses their spot, and you go in. And then they can't come back.
I think that's
But
more.
after that day, they figured it out, and I never got a full session again. Or after that first 1 hour breakout.
So how many is full?
It depends. They could have configured those rooms any number per talk, and they just screwed up on the first one.
Oh, they did. Oh, okay.
Yeah. So they set 30 for the keynote. Those simpler
What the hell
ones.
are we listening to?
I wound up turning all the.
I already
wound up
muted it a
turning the
while
volume
ago.
off. So this
Am
is
I
like a
slow
public
to
space
asynchronously
back?
or something because I can't turn it off.
You can maybe click right on the big screen. That might help. Be a different UI.
Yeah.
Or my-
Click on the screen. You can turn down the volume to 0.
So who owns this space we're in, Zach?
Someone built it. If you look on the menu, it'll tell you the person that built it. One of the tricks
Anybody
is
heard
finding
of,
it.
this other platform called Spatial.io?
Yeah. One of the ones I want to test.
Yeah, it looks interesting
built
because
the rooftop.
you can submit your photo and it'll make an avatar that looks like you. I mean,
Yep.
it's basically a torso and a head, and I guess some type of arms. But that looks interesting.
Yeah.
I
There's a
thought that
lower limit
Altspace should
on
have
attendees.
name tags with people's faces on them. You know, it's a little.
Yeah, he can do that.
snapper. Yeah.
That would be smart. I think you have to do that on the website, not in the headset. One of the problems
Carlos
with Spatial, I
has
looked at
his,
it. Oh,
yeah.
go ahead.
Carlos has his head when you go and look at your friends. He's the only person who comes up with an actual face, which is kind of nice.
He's pro.
The whole,
one of the
the
problems
whole sort of
Spatial.
the whole handle
Oh.
thing drives me crazy.
Spatial.io is not in the App Store yet, so you have to do this super convoluted process to get them to send you a beta key for request. So it would be tough, even tougher than tell us your email address, which is tough enough.
Yeah, that's funny.
It should get
By
better
the
going
way,
forward.
This is our third time here. This worked a
Yeah.
lot better than the other two. This
A
idea
little
that
bit.
you made it fairly clear that register with the same name.
It was the
And-
first sentence on the event in the email. But yeah.
Yeah, and the other two was, and the other thing is learning how to do the buddy system. Now that most of us have like 10 friends who are going to it,
Yeah.
you can request to go into it now. But
Right.
but I didn't get locked out at all this time. The last two times I did get locked out at some point.
So yeah, this last time was my mistake. I thought the buddy system applied to our group space, but it doesn't. That's a super strict. You're in the list or you're not in the list. And you get that super nebulous air that doesn't say that. It's like, I'm really sorry. I'd love to help you out, pal. Something like that.
Okay, so the buddy
and that means
system
you're not
wouldn't
in
have
the
worked.
supposed to
as-
send you there, but I just can't. It's like, is it
So-
an error or a
So the buddy
permission?
system wouldn't have worked today if you weren't on the list.
Correct. And I told people last
Ah.
month that it did work, and people are trying it and it didn't go well because it doesn't work.
Yep. No, I remember.
So now we
Bummer.
narrowed it to send an email. We'll type you into the
So-
website.
So the IGATCA now has a space, right?
Yep.
That
We could
belongs
add
to
other
us.
worlds to it. Yeah.
That's it. That's not this though.
No, not this
This is
thing.
public.
It looks like your space, except it's apparently a common space. It comes up under my spaces or something like that. And Jim
Yep.
Russell and I went there and played around for
Yeah.
a while. It was great.
And we-
He actually snuck into the meeting last month.
Oh yeah.
He had just, at like 6:05 or 6:15, he started, registering for Altspace and stuff. And so he he got couldn't get in for a while, and then couldn't able to follow us. But since then, he and I have gone and played around, and he probably would have been here tonight if he wasn't doing motion capture.
And he wouldn't have gotten in
How
until
do
he
you pick these up?
got added to the list.
You know, it took a while for me to get one.
But we
Well,
can
I
have
think
multiple
you-
worlds
your-
that we're
your
all
grip.
allowed to visit. I think that'd be pretty cool.
Well, and that's what I'm
And now I
saying, is
can't-
that there
you can't
is this
set it down,
world
and I
that
can't get
belongs to
another
the
one.
IGDA-TC,
Yep.
right?
Yep,
Yeah,
that's one of
and-
the templates.
And
can't put it in
I'm
different hand.
apparently a member of that now. I can go in there.
Yep.
Or can anybody go in there?
Nope, just the people on the list that we
On the list,
got for
okay.
Eventbrite. Yeah.
Great.
So the plan now is Patrick and I did a ton of testing a couple days ago. Like part of the testing was there's 2 different text boxes on the website, and as you might sort of guess, you put something into the second text box, the entire first one gets ignored. And also the second
good
one is
grief.
2 lines tall. 2. But you can scroll it.
You can expand.
So you don't want 2 people adding people to the group, because that won't end well. You want 1.
Yeah. Yeah.
But over time, I think we're just going to keep adding and creating backups to that list. And it wouldn't be terrible just to import every single person that's ever gone to an Eventbrite, but there's probably a limit. Upper limit. That's like 2,000 people.
And then there's this whole handle email thing. You know,
Yeah.
Marty's over there doing barbecue, but the IGDA thing last time, there was the IGDA meeting. We were in Discord, we were in Steam, we were in Twitch, and I think there was something else. Some people were in Slack. And Marty heard me talking about it. And it's so funny because everybody's got a different handle in each of those different things. Or not everybody, but several people had different handles. So this idea that, you have to use the same email for your IGDA registration as your Alt VR thing is sounds like it's a pretty simple thing to do, but people are so used to having, bat phones or whatever you call it, this name that they don't use for other things.
Yeah, anyone want to go somewhere else?
Yeah.
Let's go somewhere else.
So,
'Cause,
okay, I got a good choice.
Let me tell you
Let me
why,
tell it.
quick. Because I hit that play button,
Mhm.
and it just says loading. So
Yeah.
the music is going to kill me.
It didn't stop.
Well, couldn't you
So-
just
just
turn the
says
music
loading.
down?
I saw it on the PC where I'm streaming from, so I know what the interface is supposed to look like, but I can't see it in the class.
So you might be able to re-enter the space, but let's leave anyway, because I wanted to go to a couple spaces.
Yeah.
So the one I was thinking of next is kind of lightweight.
You can pass the joint around here. That's what it looks like.
So in case anybody doesn't get on the tour, they'll notice right away though, because it'll become the most popular world in Altspace. It's named Star Park, and I'm going to make a portal for it right now. Yeah.
We all get to join the cult again.
Yep, and join the cult. Portal. Everybody's a portal. I don't think we know them robots over there. Hey, Scott Gaff, portal. Uh-oh. Scott Gaff, portal.
He's enamored by the video.
Other Martin. There you go. All right, we're leaving Scott behind. Let's see if we can figure out first Martin, portal Martin.
Oh, he's moving.
VR Martin.
So all 3 times that we've done this, the exact same thing happened to me.
Click it.
At the end of the
Click it
meeting,
once.
my power goes off.
Click the portal.
I think I've clicked it. And then just before we go to a new place, it gets so dark that my tracking gets lost.
Yeah, I think we're all about to lose tracking.
Scott Gaff.
Turn some lights on.
Yeah.
Suck it up.
Yeah, exactly.
Ooh, yeah, Scott, I don't think you're connected.
Oh, my bulb is out of my lamp. No.
Peer pressure.
I'll friend one of you later.
Peer pressure.
Maybe none of us did.
Where'd he go?
He went on his own.
We all seem to be here still.
Did he go without us?
I think he.
That's
I think
awkward.
He's gone.
Where'd he
all
go,
the cool
Marty?
People left.
Well, I can't go to Zach. I can't go to Zach.
Where did
Zach
Zach
went?
went?
Maybe
Where did you try to go,
Maybe
Marty?
he lost tracking because it got dark outside.
I think he crashed.
Yeah, maybe.
So,
For me, I could see the
So where
counter
were we
just
gonna
was
go?
hanging at 9.
We're gonna go to Star Park.
I just remembered
Park,
the other
yeah.
thing that I have to do at this time in a meeting, which is go to the bathroom. So I'm going to mute.
Oh, quick, get a drink. before we go.
Yeah, please mute.
Please mute.
He's not
Oh, man,
saying he's
I
taking
don't
the
see
headset
Star
off.
Park.
He's just gonna mute it.
Well, so he's in the other spot. I was able to get here.
I can't mute this music.
I just hear cars honking in the background.
Yeah, we must not have permission to go where Zach went.
Hey, Tracy, be good. Be good.
Well, we could go somewhere else. We could go to the Lantern Festival.
There's open mic night.
It may be possible to find him by finding his name in the list, and then you can. There's like a go button or something. Oh,
Yeah, he's not
Yeah.
online.
Yeah, I think maybe that's why
I
I
don't
left us
see him.
behind, is we
He
don't have
left.
permission to go there or something.
he's left.
I'm
Okay.
guessing he crashed or his headset's out of battery, maybe.
Yeah, that could be.
Well, why don't we all go to the Lantern Festival?
I'll follow. Anywhere we
Cool.
We take
All
our
right.
drinks. You take our drinks with.
So let's go to the IGDA hangout, and then we'll wait for Zach to come back on.
Okay,
That's not
a
a
good
bad
idea.
idea.
So that's under
My
My
World?
World.
Follow me.
Yep.
Okay.
So did everybody know how to get here, you think? I was asking everybody before I left, and I just realized I needed.
Ooh, nice shot.
Hey! Okay. Hi, Rob. So did anybody go out and try to? So can you look for a friend with this menu?
Oh, it kind of helps you, doesn't it?
Yes, you can.
I put the robot in the house. That's where we were hanging out last night.
I just invited Zach to come here.
He sent me the classic nice job message. I just sent him an invite.
Easier than typing.
So who created
Nice
this
job.
space? Is this kind of a default group?
Yeah, this is like the default one.
So,
Through the tutorial.
Scott was saying
Thanks
about
for
how
the
his
nice
battery
job,
died,
Zach.
and then my battery died.
I knew it.
He's in here somewhere. Let me get him back in here.
What is
So it's just a
what is the runtime?
Yeah, it's pretty awesome.
What is the runtime in the Quest?
Android.
The Android runtime? You mean battery life?
No, battery life.
Yeah, I
Oh.
think he means
Two-ish hours?
That was the
2.5?
wrong question.
lib ART. No, probably not.
Yeah, it depends what you're running. The worst I've seen is about 2 hours.
If you can get one of those external battery packs, then they're like 10 or 12 hours.
Yep.
That's probably
I
more
forgot to
my
hook mine
eyes.
up.
That's what I've been using for. That's what I've been doing for our work stuff. We're using the Pico headsets, and I hook up a traditional battery pack, or it lasts like a fraction of the day, and then you have to let it charge for half an hour before it'll even like connect again.
Oh,
Nice.
yeah.
I
With
made the mistake of not charging before this meeting. But then after maybe like an hour, I was able to unplug it, and that's what I'm in now. But before that, like I just couldn't use the headset at all.
it's possible to push the
I just have
GPU
mine
hard enough
plugged in
that you
with
can't
the
charge
link
and
cable.
play at the same time, but apps like this you usually can. So, all right,
Yeah,
attempt.
actually, I tried that because I had it plugged in at first, and I was using it, and then it completely died.
Yeah, it
Didn't, like,
depends on the app and the charger and the cable and all kinds of nifty. I did get some like 4-inch cable, so they're pretty great. The exact right length for the one to the back. Favorites. We're attempt number 2 to go to Star Park. Where is it? Star Park.
Portal.
Ooh,
I don't know if you heard the
everyone's doing
story,
calls.
Scott, but you came back and laughed and said your battery ran out, and then my headset shut down a second later.
Well, the other thing with me was it got too dark. My tracking went away.
Oh, yeah. Okay, here we go.
Ooh.
The same place.
Now we're in VR.
Wow.
Whoa, this is scary.
With Starfire.
I like how the floor is.
If you have a fear of heights, you'd hate this. This is not good.
Like how you can fall off.
I like how we all spawn on top of each other.
Yep.
The flying, that flying thing in that place with the drinks was pretty wild. Just sort of
Yeah.
scariness wise.
Can you
This
fly
needs
here?
like
No.
long sticks with marshmallows on them.
So how are those guys getting down there? They're
How
flying.
far do you think that is? Like 400 million mile sticks?
Yeah,
Wait, how do you get down there?
Just fall off the edge.
There's a
It's
lot.
easy as falling off a bike.
You can.
Search is locked. Only mods can.
Oh, look, the playlist is empty.
We
So it
can't
must be
play
a
video.
360 video player. Your heads are in the sun.
That's funny. Yeah, it's an actual video
Guys.
player. What a
We're gonna get the coronavirus.
You have to leave now. Oh,
Do it.
the right
That was good.
audience for that joke.
Oh, jeez.
Oh, weird. If you look around, all the layers, the texture UVs shift around.
Yeah. Oh, that is from your head movement. I didn't even notice that.
Trippy.
How do they do that?
I'm pretty sure I've done that accidentally before.
Yeah.
it's strange outside too. You see a sun with a bunch of legs sticking out of it.
That's what it
Well,
looks
that's
like.
kind of
Yeah.
normal. Though.
Yeah. So what do the words say?
Playlist is empty. Something. Hit your playlist.
Yeah, it's locked. That's a video player. That's basically what I think you got to build the world and then probably get approval or something. I'm not sure.
So have you guys tried to build a world?
Patrick looked at it, didn't you?
Yeah, no, I didn't really look at it.
I went and made a world. I went in it. There's a beta world builder or something, and
yeah,
got in there and I couldn't figure it out. It
takes a while. You just have to play with the controls a lot. I've created a couple all in the headset. I've started building a couple in Unity, which is a whole nother layer of.
And that's what I was thinking I'd really want to do is build an external one and import it. But they had some tools for like laying down floors and putting things and things like that in. I had trouble getting them to work.
Yeah, I think you'd want to have to do it in Unity if you want to do something really interesting.
Right. Yeah.
Hey, look, we got YouTube now. In the sun.
Did one of us do that?
I don't know who did that.
Barnes dreaming for 10 hours. Wow. That sounds like a good playlist. Great.
It's just like being at Sensors, those old videos.
Yes. Yeah, exactly. You just show up. It's just like this is Joe Sensors.
I'm in a boat up here. Not the half-naked women in the merchant band.
About you.
10 hours is not enough, is it?
You can't? I did.
It's only loud. Yeah, the volume button don't go up or down.
Then you can triangle play video in the lower left corner of that menu.
Yeah, I got hide video to work. Wow.
Yeah.
That's the scariest thing in Altspace. If you just go wandering around, you eventually hit like a 3D representation of ADD, and there's just screaming and YouTube and basketballs and bright colors.
That's one way to look at it.
Oh, I voted to skip.
Right, ready for the next world?
Yes, please.
Does everybody have pretty good Wi-Fi? This has got a little more geometry in it.
Yeah.
Let's do it.
Wi-Fi's good.
So I'll just do a slight preview. So the next one's got a trick that has a moving boat, but you can't move people in Altspace. So actually the world's moving. So if everybody just stays near the boat, even people that show up late are right next to you. So if it takes you a while to load the scene, don't worry about it. It'll still work. Cool. Portal. Ooh, right in the...
One of us. What in God's name?
Everybody ready? Everybody ready? Everybody ready? Everybody ready? Here we go.
I'm good.
Scourge!
There we go.
Everybody's in the same object. So the other thing about this space is that your avatar, where I see your avatar, may not be where you're really at.
You're breaking
So
up bad.
if you teleport, it'll throw off where you're at. So where I see you will be different from where you're actually at. So I might see you on the boat still, but you might be way up on the river.
Oh, okay.
Yep.
So I was up
yeah,
there with Zach the other day, and I was on the dock waiting for him, and he saw me floating next to him in the boat, or in the water. But I was on the dock,
Gotcha.
and I could see him coming. So it's whatever they're doing is messes up some stuff.
That's pretty
Yeah,
cool.
so you see someone on the land, the whole world is actually moving. We're standing still.
Oh, but I can't hear you now.
Exactly. Yeah, the world's a big animation, and whenever you join, that's when you start the
So
animation.
was I here the whole time?
No,
Pretty
you
close.
actually you jumped over there for a second.
Yeah, I did. I went and looked at the deer.
Yeah.
Hi.
Now you're over on the land.
You know, before we die.
Yeah. So that worked.
I thought you were
hey,
asking
you know
an
what? Maybe it has to
existential
do
question.
with when we started. I think Zach, you're right.
Have I actually been here the whole time?
Yeah.
Oh,
Yeah.
odd.
The world
Where do
can't
you go
move
over the
you,
waterfall?
except it can move you up and down in that position.
So Zach, do you have any suggestions for like this world about what to set my settings at? Should I like tone it down?
I haven't changed them. The frame rate will
It can
get low,
help.
but yeah.
There's a whale.
If it's getting choppy, turn your display settings down.
Okay, because when Patrick was talking to me, he was like breaking up.
That's probably his fault.
Hi,
Don't
Patrick.
worry.
Can you hear me?
Yeah, I can.
Now you sound fine.
Okay. Yeah, you know what? The
There's
location
jellyfish
thing,
down there,
I
too.
think Zach's right. It's based on when you start the experience. So if somebody else comes in right now, then the positional relationship data is all screwed up between people.
You're breaking up again.
Yeah, I don't know,
fine.
man.
Your fault, Scott.
I'm gonna go set my setting.
Yeah, everyone's breaking up a bit for me as well.
I'm gonna go turn that setting down that Zach had us put up.
I know the Wi-Fi quarantines ended at my house since I was presenting, so now everybody's enjoying the internet again. Was it a whale?
Whale.
Marty's just walking on water over there.
Yeah, there's a couple of people down there.
I thought we were doing that too.
So this
Hey, Patrick, say something.
Hello. Hello, Scott. Hello.
I can hear. I think that was it. You're not breaking up at all now.
All right.
So you think it was
Activity better.
What we're doing right now?
you think it was your headset? You getting warm?
Yeah, mine's kind of warm.
We're going on a Disney ride.
Yeah, if it's charging and playing hard, it might get warm.
Oh, dude, mine is so hot.
So thanks to Art Day, I know there is such a thing as a thermal shutoff, and it's only happened thanks to RJ's demo, the hand tracking one.
I've never had
So a good 2 minutes before it shuts off, you can audibly hear the fan, and that's never happened before. It's
On the
something
Quest?
fun. Yeah, I think it's fun to kill frame rates and look at the distillation. And then I heard this noise. I'm like, is that coming out of the headset? And he's like 4 feet away. He's like, yeah. And then it shuts off.
Wow.
So is there a good way to
Don't
tell what
again.
my? Is there a good way to tell what my battery level is in Altspace?
No, you got to hit the Oculus button real quick. And just peek at it. But yeah, so
That's
we
quick.
all think we're on the same boat ride about to go to the dock, but some of us are a couple seconds behind reaching the dock. It's kind of surreal.
Oh, that's probably why he's floating in space to me, because the dock.
Yep,
for him
he'll line
is
up
a
on the
little
dock
bit
closer. As soon as you arrive, he'll line up on the dock probably. You can also cheat with that recentering bug though too, to float anywhere you want.
Oh yeah.
Hey, I made it back on the boat. Yeah, the dock's there for me.
Never thought you'd be on a boat.
Oh no,
Yeah,
I'm
so
Never
there's
thought I'd be on a boat.
on a
So
boat.
this is one of the featured popular world's guy named Mr. Prime. He's the one that did that kayak thing that I had pictures of. That's the next one he's going to release. It's not here yet, but over here. So going down to the island.
Whoa.
Don't look now, but you're being followed. Oh, hi.
Oh, hello.
Yes.
Sure. Get one hand tied behind your back.
Oh, and sitting with my arm across the back of the chair. Also, there's a cat on my lap right here.
Aww.
Aww, who's your kitty?
Whoa, there's people floating in the sky.
Yeah, I figure how to do that.
I think we're gonna shut down the stream. Thanks everyone for watching. I don't know how many of you are left. 3,